Welcome, my friends, to the showdown between these Skaven, who shall be led by Lord Skrolk. And today, guys, we're going to be facing off against the Warriors of Chaos, who shall be helmed by the Dark Lord of KFC, Sartorial the Ever-Chicken. So as far as the build goes, it's very much going to be a defensive Death Star. However, we do have some ranged assets in the back line here in the form of the Natty Bubo Sharpshooter. So the reason you do this is because it forces Chaos to come in. Now, Chaos sometimes does bring, let's say, Marauder Horsemen or throwing axes and stuff like that. And if you have like a true Death Star, right, you have no ranged tools, they can circle you really, really well. They get the Horsemen around the flanks, they pick on your Doom Wheel, they pick on your Plague Furnace, they go after your Hellpit Abomination with Marauder Horsemen. And that can be really unfortunate, and it's definitely a way to be pulled apart. As such, if you bring one group of sharpshooters here in the back line, you're going to be able to force them in because these guys have great range. They can pick off the horsemen, they can pick off high value assets, and really force your opponent into your grinding battle here with the Council Guard and the Plague Furnace and all that good stuff. Now, I think it's a little bit risky against Chaos to go super wide with gun lines, like bringing, let's say, multiple sharpshooters as well as a Warp Lightning Cannon. I think bringing one or two is kind of a safe spot in competitive play, but if you go very wide, a good Chaos player is going to have hounds everywhere. They're going to be pushing into your backline with Chaos Spawn, and as soon as those areas kind of get, mucked up, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think this is more of the optimal way to play, but again, it has its weaknesses for sure. For example, Sartorial getting a huge final transmutation on your blob. Perhaps that will happen, we'll find out. So Skaven Slaves here in the front line. In the back line, we do have a couple of Clan Rats who are going to be mixed in with some Rat Ogres. So you need mass against Chaos. If you don't have mass, Spawn and Manticores and Sartorial and all sorts of other threats, maybe even Chaos Knights, are going to be surging into your lines and causing a ton of problems. So that's why we have the Rat Ogres. On top of that, we do have Skrolk Daddy. He's going to be there with the Rod of Corruption and the Libra Bubonicus, really draining that front line. And, eventually when my Clan Rats do buckle and my Skaven Slaves inevitably run, I'm going to be able to drop some really sweet summons and kind of pin down the Chaos forces. On top of that, I think the Plague Priest on the Furnace is really good. The Mortis Engine effect here is massive because Chaos Infantry will pretty much dumpster Skaven Infantry across the board. It's a very tough matchup for them. So if you have the Plague Furnace to deal with the Infantry, you're going to be in good shape. It'll melt those guys, it'll do good damage, it has good AP, and, a bonus for its infantry as well. So this thing does work. Now, last but not least, I needed some Terror in this army because Terror is pretty good against Marauders and Chaos Warriors and even Chosen, none of which are immune to Psychology. So having the Doom Wheel to kind of run things over and be a perpetual Terror route menace is going to be quite strong. That's pretty much it for my force. Again, very defensive. Council Guard here in the center, going to be protecting Skrolk. One of the best ways for Chaos or any factions in general to really deal with Skaven is to snipe their lords and characters. So having the Council Guard to kind of keep Skrolk Daddy just pimping and doing his thing is quite good. So for my opponent, the Great King of the Dead, he does also have a Chaos Feral Manticore here in the front line. He's got some Warhounds, or I should say the Vanguard. So he's got Warhounds here, Warhounds here, Warhounds here. They should change his name to the King of the Warhounds. I swear, every matchup I play against King of the Dead, there is always hounds. I don't know, or some sort of unit like that, right? Like a harassing skirmishing unit, and his micro is so good with them. He always finds a way to get them into the cookie jar. So he's got 4 hounds. He does have a Chaos Feral Manticore. In the front line, it's going to be Sartorial the Ever-Chicken with Final Transmutation. Plus, he does also have Plague of Rust, which is quite good with Spawn. Spawn have really good DPS, but they lack the armor piercing. So you Plague of Rust your high-value target, whether it be Storm Vermin or a Plague Furnace, and they're going to be able to do some really good damage. He does also have the Mirror Guard. Mirror Guard are a very good choice. They're durable. They're not going to buckle and run and get terror routed by Doom Wheels. They're immune to Psychology. These guys just go deep and always have a good time. Of course, Slanesh, all that good stuff. In the back line, 4 Spawn in total. So it's going to be Weird Spawn, Chaos Warriors, Marauders on the flanks, and that's pretty much it. Definitely going to be very much a monster mash fight. So let's get the show on the road, guys, and have some fun. So here in the front, you can see the Chaos Feral Manticore is going to be getting blasted by the Jezzail. So he actually thought during the battle that I used the Libra Bubonicus because they do have the snipe, right? So it's a little bit tricky to see that. So he does land here into some Skaven Slaves with Spears who should be able to do some okay damage. And we're still going to be lending some fire support here with the Sharpshooters, but now the back line's going to get a little bit crazy. So King is going to be pushing in with the Hound. So one group's coming from here, one group from here. I mean, just a total collapse here, just pushing in from all angles. And as a matter of fact, pretty nice little engagement here. He uses the Poison Warhounds to pin in my Rat Ogres and support the Feral Manticore, which is probably going to save its life. Now the Spawn are coming in. You can see Sartorial's coming in. This is actually going to turn from a situation which was quite good, getting a free Manticore, to one that's actually pretty scary. Now in the back line, Poison Warhounds are trying to find the cookie jar, but of course I do have the Rat Ogres on duty here, so they're going to be jumping in and should be able to at least, pin these guys down or stop them. But I don't think I gave the attack order. Maybe I did. I can't quite remember, but in the front line, we're going to be sending in the Plague Furnace because Sartorial and some of the other big threats are over there. So the Plague Furnace is going to be surging into Slanesh's Chosen here, Sigvald's personal bodyguard, and doing some pretty good damage. We're also going to be switching the Jezzails onto the Warp Spawn here, or the Weird Spawn. Yeah, Warp Spawn, I mean, pretty much the same thing, right? And considering this whole flank just got collapsed by Chaos, I'm going to be having to send the Council Guard. So the Council Guard's going to be going and trying to pin these guys down, keeping the Spawn and the Manticore, as well as Sartorial from getting into my back line, and pretty much just collapsing everything here. Rat Ogres, in the meantime, are just adjusting back and forth, making sure and doing their best to kind of keep off the Warhounds. I do get the charge there, so the Rat Ogres should be able to peel pretty quickly. We still do have the Jezzail shooting, which is quite good. Skaven Slaves on the other side will be intercepting these Warhounds and doing their best. Now, normally pretty much any Skaven troop you would send, like Plague Monk, Sensor Bearers, Storm Vermin, whatever it may be, would actually just get annihilated by this pocket. They would get terror routed, they would get pushed off by the DPS of the spawn, but the Council Guard are just such durable little rat boys. They're going to be holding, they'll probably finish off the Manticore, they'll probably be able to honestly hold back the spawn, and if I need to a Skrulk, I can run back here and get that really good Guardian effect. But in the front line, a huge final transmutation going down. I didn't get the chance to show you guys kind of the brunt of it, but it hit Lord Skrulk, it hit my Doom Wheel, it hit my Hellpit Abomination. Very, very good cast there from King. And with that, you can see the bounce power does actually go a little bit back towards, yeah, it's going in King's favor for sure after that final transmutation. So at this point, I'm like, all right, I need to fall back a little bit. Let's throw some summons. So I'm just spam summoning. The weird spawn are being intercepted by Plague Monks, and I have summons on both the Furnace as well as Scroll, so there's certainly a lot of summons to be had. So we're just dropping them in the front line to kind of hold back that tide. The Doom Wheel is now coming into the back line to try and just form a Death Star of Terror here, but unfortunately, Sartorial and it looks like a group of Spawn who may have been a little bit occupied fighting some rats. Yeah, they have 70 kills, so they were fighting some flame rats, it looks like. Are going to be going after the wheel, and they have good mass, not the best DPS against its 100 armor, but Plague of Rust is certainly going to help that out. Now back in the pit fight, the Council Guard doing very well, and one of the big things I have going for me is I have a Hellpit Abomination, so the longer this battle goes, the Plague Furnace in conjunction with the healing of the Hellpit Abomination is going to be super powerful for my army here, and the Council Guard are actually quite durable against these Chaos Infantry. Chaos Warriors don't have great AP values unless they have great weapons, of course, and same with Marauders, so the Council Guard are holding pretty well, and really allowing this Hellpit Abomination to methodically work its way through the monsters. So taking out the Imperial Manticore, now it's going to be switching onto the Chaos Spawn here, definitely very solid. So in the meantime, it looks like Sartorial the Ever Chicken is trying to assassinate Skrulk, but he's quite a slippery rat. So at this point, we're going to be running Skrulk into the Council Guard so he gets the Guardian ability, but it looks like it's just going to be a huge just grind here in the end. The Weird Spawn, all these other troops coming in, Chaos Spawn coming from all directions. My Summons and Rat Ogres are doing their best to kind of hold back the tide of chaos, but there are a lot of scary monsters here. But the upside of this blob is the Mortis Engine effect. So my Furnace, of course, is in very good shape. It's going to be draining all these troops here. So the Chaos Warriors and the Mirror Guard, you can see they're incrementally losing HP, which is a huge boon for my army. Now if we take a big overhead look here at the battlefield, there are some Hounds coming back in. It looks like some Chaos Warriors and some Marauders might be coming back in as well. My Jezzails actually did come back in the distance, which would be quite huge. Even 8 of them. It's pretty good DPS. However, King of the Dead is going to be getting some Hounds to run through these guys, and yeah, they're going to be getting on my guys. And that's a pretty easy kill for those doggies. So very good Hound play there in the back line. However, guys, the bounce of power for the first time is ebbing back into my favor a little bit as the Mortis Engine plus the healing of the Hellpit and its capabilities against these large threats of Chaos Spawn are really showing themselves. Also, I am stacked on top of the remnants of the Council Guard. I think there's 21 of these guys left. Very, very good Plague of Rust, actually, putting those guys down to 0 armor, because Plague of Rust plus the Weird Spawn is going to be, yeah, some serious armor for sure. So I do have a Doom Wheel coming back as well. The Doom Wheel did overchase a little bit. I think I was chasing off some infantry. We're trying to chase off the Manticore. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, I did overchase quite badly, so a bit of a mistake there. But when the Doom Wheel gets back, we're certainly going to have some pretty good terror. And Chaos, what do they have left? So they have some Weird Spawn, they have Chaos Spawn here, they have the Warp Chicken, so a lot of unbreakable troops, but, you know, the Halberds are doing really good steady damage, the Rat Ogres are actually doing okay as well. Skrulk, of course, you know, he's got his cane, and he hits pretty hard. I mean, 400 plus weapon strength, and again, armor isn't really a big issue, but the Hellpit Abomination is just healing, 4,000 HP on that bad boy, and there's not too many things Chaos has here that's going to be super good against the Hellpit Abomination. Warp Chicken will do okay. He has good melee attack, and, you know, of course, the Hellpit is quite lightly armored, especially when its armor is being sundered. And now you can see there's a bit of a second resurgence from Chaos, as all these Marauders and other troops do come in here, but as soon as they come in, the plague of the filthy rats, the Council of 13, sending its blessings here to these lovely Warriors of Chaos. And now the Doom Wheel is back as well, so the Doom Wheel is going to be coming in, and anything in the radius that, of course, is susceptible to terror is going to start suffering from that. So you can see with the return of the Doom Wheel, the return of the King, we're able to get a pretty nice boon here in regards to the bounce of power. And we are pulling ahead here as the Spawn are finally starting to get worn down. I mean, there's 4 Spawn left here, and throughout the course of the game, a couple people were probably wondering, of course, what I was using the Liber Bubonicus on, but I was actually using it to drain the Spawn and the Weird Spawn because I knew they would be something that could pretty much grind out most of my army if they're in good shape. The Chicken, in the meantime, going for the final last stand here, trying to take out Skrulk, but that's pretty much going to be it, as we pretty much both knew at that point the game was over. So, well played. That was a really fun game, and it's awesome seeing those kind of builds. And yeah, King is definitely the king of these very crazy builds, his bombers. And although I think Chaos Spawn are becoming a little bit more mainstream, I've been playing, again, ladder games against Chaos, and a lot of people do bring Spawn. Maybe not 4, but at least like 2 or 3 in some matchups. And it is kind of like, think about it this way, right? What's the counter against Spawn for Skaven? It's going to be like gun lines and anti-large stuff like Hellpit Abominations. So, I mean, but in bringing those units, you're going to be a little bit susceptible to the Chaos Swarm, like Chaos Warhounds getting into your Jezzails and your Warp Lightning Cannons and all that stuff. But I do think this style of play is very, very good here with Skaven, like this Death Star with like one ranged piece. You get the Mortis Engine, you get some really nasty summons between these two characters, you get good AoE buffs, or damage, excuse me, with Skrulk with his Rod of Corruption. So Mortis Engine plus Rod of Corruption plus like Unbreakable Council Guard to kind of stack on top of is a really, really powerful synergy. Now against Chaos, I'm sure there are other ways to play, but I don't know, I feel like this is pretty good. Like if you try and go with, let's say, Gutter Runners and you're trying to like kite the spawn, which could be okay, right? The Poison Warhounds are most likely going to get you. There's going to be 4 of those guys. It's tricky. But the Doom Wheel plus the Furnace are the counter to the infantry. Against the big threats, we have the Jezzails, the Hellpit Abomination, plus the Council Guard and Skrulk, of course. So yeah, I feel like it's well-rounded, but it was a close game. I mean, had he been able to snipe Skrulk, there was a couple moments in the game where he was fighting Skrulk for like a good like minute or so with the Warp Chicken. And Warp Chicken wasn't able to get as much damage as I really thought he would. So had Skrulk been gooned out, I think he probably could have been able to pull that game out in the end, because the second Libra coming in was huge. It was a little bit hard to kind of focus on because it was such a grind, but it did a ton of damage against a weird spawn and these troops and just finished them off, which really opened up quite a bit. But good kills, 105, 73, and 88. Granted, a lot of those kills were against Skaven Slaves and Chaff, but yeah, it was a really cool build for sure. And I don't know, maybe saving up for a second final transmutation would have been better than like the Plague of Rust. The Plague of Rust are cool and all, and it did help get the Council Guard down, but even still, I feel like a second final transmutation would have just been such a huge Steven Seagal karate chop, like right in the neck, like against these like blobbed up troops here that were actually pretty beat up at the end. But I don't know, it's hard to say for sure, because Plague of Rust is very powerful with Chaos Spawn. So well played to my opponent, King of the Dead. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Skaven versus Warriors of Chaos game, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.